Well, let's talk about how you're testing your business models.
Sure, let's do that.
And Bill, I want to start this discussion with you. A lot of your students go through the process of figuring out a business model. And there are many cases like Marwan's where it's challenging. It's a multi-sided marketplace or a unique technology. So how do you go about testing the business models?
Yeah, so this is a little different than some of the other things. Like, you can't ask people, what they're going to do. You have to go out and actually test their buying. You have to see whether they're going to buy it or not. And that's not seeing if they're interested. That's seeing if they're going to pay. And so the compelling thing here is, what separates Marwan from other people is they actually got an Airbnb apartment and they tested it and they showed that people would pay for it. It wasn't a survey, a hypothetical. It was actual money being transacted.
Well, hold on a second. In Marwan's case, even though it was creative, but it wasn't too difficult to become the customer. All you do is rent out your apartment on Airbnb. Someone else will say, well, I'm selling software to industrial designers like you have. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I become an industrial designer, so I can't really put myself in the shoes of the customer. How would you test that?
First of all, it wasn't completely obvious to go out and get an Airbnb apartment. Let me be very clear. We didn't tell him to go do that. I wish we had, but that was completely on him as a creative, kind of dogged entrepreneur to go do that.
We came up with this crazy idea, which was, what if we just lease 2 apartments? Let's try to understand the business. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of the Airbnb hosts. Because, we understand what it's like to be an artist because we're in the architecture school. We know what it's like to buy art because, most people buy art.
Yeah.
But we didn't really understand what it takes to run an Airbnb. So we did
So
that.
the best way to understand your customer is to be your customer, right?
Absolutely.
And you see this with Steve Jobs too. Before he releases a product, he just immerses himself and becomes the customer and uses the product over and over and over again. And we never shipped a product that I didn't sit down and use and go through every single step as to how to do it. Some would consider that the QA department, the quality assurance department. But for me, it was just, I had to walk in my customer's shoes to understand that, to understand what value they were creating. Now, that being said, that didn't give the full experience. So your question is not only a good question, but valid in pointing out some of the limitations of this approach. Because I didn't send mine off to China to get to manufactured and complete the whole loop. But what we did is we hired someone who had that experience and we brought them onto the team, and to make sure that on our team we had the deep domain expertise. So one thing is you can walk the talk, you can go out there and train yourself as they did. So now when they meet someone from an Airbnb, who's renting out on Airbnb, they connect immediately because they've been through that experience. I went through it, I could understand what designers were doing, but I couldn't really connect with them. So we had to hire someone in to be able to connect with them and know the secret handshakes.